Well, welcome back and good morning. My name is Dan Derry, and I'm the president of the Institute of Fulfilled Eschatology. In today's video, we're going to continue looking at Luke 21 and the days of vengeance. When Jesus was on the earth, just several days before his crucifixion, he said some amazing things to his disciples. And in Luke 21, verses 20 to 22, Jesus told his disciples that when they would see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, they were to know that its desolation was near. And he said, "For those would be the days of vengeance when all things that were written would be fulfilled." So Jesus said that in the events surrounding the destruction of Jerusalem, that would be the fulfillment of the days of vengeance that would fulfill all things written. And we've showed in the last couple videos that what Jesus was doing, that he was prophesying the fulfillment of the coming of the Lord in vengeance and in salvation in the days of vengeance from the Old Testament prophets. The Old Testament prophets had predicted the day of vengeance to come, and in that day of vengeance, the Lord would bring salvation, and he would bring, obviously, vengeance and judgment upon Israel. So let's just jump in. We want to look at Isaiah 59. And Isaiah talks about the days of vengeance at the coming of the Lord. So let's just jump in. Isaiah 59 and verse 15, and we'll read down to verse 20. "Yes, truth is lacking, and he who turns aside from evil makes himself a prey. Now the Lord saw, and it was displeasing in his sight that there was no justice. And he saw that there was no man, and he was astonished that there was no one to intercede. Then his own arm brought salvation to him, and his righteousness upheld him. He put on righteousness like a breastplate, and a helmet of salvation on his head. He put on the garments of vengeance for clothing, and wrapped himself with zeal as a mantle. According to their deeds he will repay. Wrath to his adversaries, recompense to his enemies. To the coastlands he will make recompense. So they will fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. For he will come in like a rushing stream which the wind of the Lord drives, and the Redeemer will come to Zion." There's the coming of the Lord. "And to those who turn from transgressions in Jacob declares the Lord." Here in Isaiah 59, we have the coming of the Lord for redemption, the coming of the Lord to Zion for redemption, yet he would be clothed in the garments of vengeance. It would be his coming in salvation and in vengeance. This is precisely what we see in Luke 21 as well. Luke 21:20, Jesus prophesies about the destruction of Jerusalem when they would see the city surrounded with armies. Its desolation would be near. Yet in verse 27, Jesus prophesies his coming in the clouds of heaven, and in verse 28, they were to look up, for their redemption was drawing nigh. This is the coming of the Lord in salvation, yet in the context of the judgment of Israel. And in verse 31, Jesus said, "Verily I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things be fulfilled." Thus, Jesus posited his coming in salvation and in judgment and in vengeance in that generation, fulfilling Isaiah 59, which Isaiah said would be the coming of the Lord, clothed in vengeance, but for salvation, to recompense his enemies in judgments, and to bring redemption to those in Zion. Guys, what Jesus was saying in Luke 21 was that when Jerusalem was surrounded by armies, this would be the days of vengeance in fulfillment of Isaiah 59. The coming of the Lord in vengeance and in salvation. The exact elements that Jesus prophesies in Luke 21. And here's the cool thing. Everybody, it doesn't matter what paradigm you belong to, everyone would agree that Isaiah 59, 17 to 20, is Paul's source of the coming of the Lord to save all Israel in Romans chapter 11. A Redeemer will come to Zion, and to those who turn from transgressions in Jacob. But Isaiah 59 was fulfilled in the day of vengeance per Luke 21 in that generation. But Isaiah 59 would be fulfilled at the coming of the Lord of Romans chapter 11. Therefore, Romans chapter 11, the coming of the Lord to save all Israel in Romans 11, is the fulfillment of Luke 21 and Isaiah 59 in Jesus' generation. It's the coming of the Lord to save all Israel, all the remnant, yet to judge and vindicate the righteous in the judgment of the wicked. Guys, I hope this has been a blessing. I hope this makes sense. Jesus said, all these things will come upon that generation. And he said that the coming of the Lord in salvation and the days of vengeance would be fulfilled within his generation. And the days of vengeance were the coming of the Lord against Old Covenant Jerusalem and Israel, who rejected the promises of the Messiah. God bless, guys.